Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome to my channel. It's Tuesday morning. I hope you guys are having a great day. Okay, so we're going to just jump in right away and talk about the Duggars. Yesterday, Jim, Bob, and Michelle sat down with Jessa Seewald for a Q&A, which was hosted and live streamed through the Institute of Basic Life Principles. The family had been promoting a conference on their Facebook page and social media accounts called Family Conference through the IBLP. It's a week-long seminar that the organization holds to help families be more faithful or something like that. The family is involved in the IBLP, which is a controversial choice and one that has a lot of baggage. Now, this family also is a family that has dealt with their own fair share of controversy related to their oldest son, Josh. And Josh is currently under investigation by DHS along with ICE investigators. So it's kind of a delicate situation going on with this family. In November, when it was leaked through the media and then later confirmed through DHS that there was a investigation ongoing related to Josh Duggar, the Duggars took to social media to deny that there was anything going on and that they were currently under investigation. Since then, they have remained relatively tight-lipped about everything that's been going on. But a Q&A yesterday about parenting for the IBLP kind of took a off kilter turn. Now, it was supposed to be about, how to remain faithful, how to teach your children scripture, really how to make sure that you're teaching your children sort of that Christ-centered life and learning and devotions, that kind of stuff, right? But around the, 12-minute mark or so of their interview, and it was a Q&A, the questions started getting a little bit odd. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of what it was because I want to break this up into a few different clips. Otherwise, this would literally take forever. But in a question about screen time, okay, so Jessa wanted to know, what do they do for screens? Now, screens and electronics are a hot topic. Parents debate this constantly. How much time is too much time? What should your children be viewing online? What kind of websites should your child be seeing? Should they be playing games? Is too much screen time detrimental? And in this world right now, with everything being online because we can't meet face to face, how much screen time is enough? What should our kids be doing? Should they be playing games? They be talking to friends? Are the friends that they're talking to or communicating with okay? That kind of stuff. And we know that through the years, Jim, Bob, and Michelle have limited a lot of the engagement that the children have had with electronics. They admitted for many years that they didn't have a TV in their home. Now they do. They also, at the times, many times, have spoken about how they really do limit the amount of screen time they allowed. But this specific conversation got into a place where it was really weird, and I want to show you just some clips of everything that happened. Michelle starts talking about screens, and then Jim Bob starts talking about screens, and then it gets interesting, and my senses started tingling on my head.
Deal with electronics, computers, and cell phones for your kids? How do you keep them safe and keep communication open about what they're doing and seeing?
I think this is probably one of the biggest struggles in today's world are these electronic devices. And I think it's one of the greatest assets. You can do all your banking, you can go and search for information on how to fix something, but it also has the most dangers of anything that we've ever faced. And so I think it's something that each family is going to have to figure out for each child on who is at the point where they can handle different things. And typically our girls, they don't struggle with the same things that the boys do. And so, but I still think that electronic devices can be a waste of time, especially if you're watching a bunch of stuff and all this, it can be a time waster. And so I think it's important to learn how to use your time wisely. But then we've always kind of held back on like games because with all these video.
Okay, so they say that their boys are struggling with things differently than their girls. And if you noticed, he kind of like stumbled and paused quite a bit there as he was thinking and carefully trying to extrapolate words so that he didn't say things that were inappropriate. it's pretty clear that what he's talking about is images in which they would deem as immodest or adult. And it's also clear that we know that in 2015, Josh was caught having an account with Ashley Madison. And at that time, he claimed that he had problems with adult content of the hokey pokey kind. And it's very clear here when he says the boys are struggling with things differently than the girls. This is likely what he's alluding to. And it's odd because that's not particularly all that's on the internet. In fact, most people that use the internet aren't looking at that all the time. I mean, really. People use the internet for work. People use the internet to watch videos. People use the internet to interact with friends. And it's not always related to that. But this is an odd question because it's, why are you automatically going to this? Well, could it be that anything that's going on with Josh has to do with this? I don't know. But we also know that Josh has struggled with this. And is he still struggling with this? We also know that Josh is still living with them. Yeah, okay, maybe he's not living with them, but he has moved into the she shed in the backyard. And they have, like Anna and him, have converted it into a place now where they're adding a backsplash and they're building shelves. So they're hunkering down and getting comfy here. And this is not typical for a guy who's, 32, 33 years old and has 6 kids. He's living in mom and dad's backyard with 6 kids. Are you trying to keep your thumbs on things here? Well, let's see what they have to say. Maybe they'll tell us.
Games and computer games, all this stuff. Sometimes the kids get to do that for a birthday, but not just do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
then
I think one of the number one things we've appreciated is when we do have like devices or computers, we try to put the covenant eyes on there because it will give us a report each day, and I can see at a glance from an email any questionable things or a site, and it gives, opens up whatever's been viewed. And so I appreciate that. That has been a real help. We have school computers, and we have a computer in our main area in our dining room. And that's where we will search for information and that sort of thing. But we keep the covenant eyes on our devices. And then we're talking with our kids because I feel like some of our adult children have waited to get an iPhone or something like that because they feel like it's important for them that they're not like dealing with all of that, until later down the road. And then when they do, we put the safeties on and they ask for that. And I feel like it's not, you realize that in a moment of weakness or where you're, at the split second when something comes up on the screen, when it isn't even connected to what you were searching for, it could be that quick that you might see something that could cause you to be tempted and stumble.
Okay, did you hear that? So what she said is she places this covenant eye, this product in which, I'll get there in a second, is supposed to help her by giving her a string of reports that tell her what her kids are looking at. Now, the most concerning thing here is that she admits that she and Jim not only do this on their younger kids, but they place these same safeguards and monitor the activity of their adult children. Yeah, that's right, adult children. They have Jed and Jeremiah, they have Jason, they have Josh, they have Jana, that they could all feasibly be monitoring. So why covenant eye? And why does she keep stumbling over this thing? Like, they might stumble on something. They might see something. I don't know what they're going to be looking at. It could just be that 1 second and you might see something. That's not really how it works, Michelle. You don't accidentally fall backwards into these kinds of websites. So what is covenant eye? Well, luckily for you, I took some screenshots. Now, I had to blur out some of the words because YouTube doesn't like it, and I will be mindful in comments that if you do comment, anything with the P word will be deleted. So here is what Covenant Eye is. It's basically a website that actually hates PORN, and it says, I'll call it pork, is the ultimate villain. It isolates you, it ruins your relationships, it kills your confidence, it supports human stuff. You can become addicted. It fuels unhappiness and shame. And it basically causes issues with eating. I had no idea. And then in order to beat it, you will have better connection with others, restore trust, boost your confidence and peace. It detects any sort of images on your web. It also breaks the shame cycle. It equips you with allies to help you, and it restores your function of the adult kind. So then it says that they are going to defeat it together. So they partner with friends. So you basically can set up an account, which will then send all of these images to a friend. Here's how they do it. They take screenshots of your phone periodically through the day. Then they blur things out that will protect you. And then they put together a list and they categorize it and like itemize it and score it based on what it is that you're sending. And then they send those images to someone that you have told is your ally. So basically, Michelle is admitting that on her adult children, she is monitoring whether or not they are looking at adult images. She is monitoring her adult children. She is monitoring their internet activity. Now, it could be these images, but when Vice actually did a look at this app a few years ago, it filters out things like Facebook. It filters out things about pregnancy. It filters out images that aren't even in this world considered to be, you know what I'm talking about. So it ultimately keeps all of those bad things in your eyeballs, that will cause you to stumble and fall away. Now, who's had a problem with this, you guys, in this family? Josh. So they have decided that now, because they can't control Josh, they're going to place this on their adult children's phones, and the adults ask for it. You're telling me a 22-year-old or a 23-year-old says, Mom, Dad, will you watch my iPhone? Well, it's not unrealistic to assume in this family, maybe because the kids literally have never been taught to think for themselves. So maybe, but this is an odd boundary. A boundary that most parents wouldn't cross, because once a child turns 18, it's legal for them to look at anything they want to look at on the internet. And if they're not taught that they can have self-control without having mom and dad monitor them, how do they ever think for themselves? That's my question. I'll continue with some more so you can get a better idea.
Being able to just talk and just see how things are going, and how have you done today, and is there anything I can pray for you about, and have you been tempted? And and usually they're pretty quick to just start pouring everything, just saying, well, today was a good day, but I did have a few struggles, and just pray together, because I feel like God says that we as a family can confess our faults one to another and pray one for another, and then God says that we may be healed. And I think that healing is being able to repent, confess, get things right with the Lord, and then with one another, and we find victory and encouragement as we go along. So
right, and I think that's the key, is that whenever the scripture says, if you cover your sin, you won't prosper. And so if there's secret sin, if there's things you're viewing and going down that path, you can really get them off track in a hurry. And so asking them questions about how they're doing, if they seen anything, and maybe somebody's talked about something, or maybe somebody's shown them something, or and so we try to somewhat limit the electronic devices early in their life, because it can be a distraction. But as time goes on, it's going to be probably part of each one of their lives as they're older. But learning how to manage that, and learn how to say no to yourself, and to make choices of, you know what, I'm not going to go down that path. Right. And even though there's a curiosity and all this, so talking to them about these different things, and communicating is a key.
That's good. That sort of leads.
Okay, so again, how did a question about electronic devices like a phone, like say my kid wants to watch some videos on an iPhone, or my kid has a learning app that they want to play, like, do you allow your child to play on electronic? How did that turn into this big discussion about Covenant Eyes, which is completely invasive, and if you're using this for your children, is a complete boundary, like that no adult should have to have their parents monitoring. And then he says, well, they have to learn how to say no to themselves. How are they learning how to say no to themselves if mom and dad are placing these safeguards on their phone as adults, monitoring what they're doing? We know that in 2015, when Josh went through everything, he actually got rid of all of his social media. So does that mean that it's because Jim Bob and Michelle are monitoring what he's doing on social media? If it's based on what they're saying here, I think a likely assumption would be yes. But again, I don't know. We also know that he has very limited access to things because of everything that happened. And then another thing she mentioned was, when these things do come up and they do see something, she asks them, were you tempted today? Did you see things today? Why would that be a natural thing about electronics? Not everything that we see on electronics is bad. I mean, my son was watching Peppa Pig today. Nothing's wrong with Peppa Pig. I mean, she might be a little bit bratty, but that's not like going down that path. But it's like there's so much like, it's so like from 0 to 500. And without any sort of self-control, can you blame these kids for getting into a position where I'm not defending what Josh has done, but can you blame these kids for not knowing proper boundaries or even how to like manage what they do see when they see it, because they've been told their whole life, like, you can't look at these things, you can't talk about these things, you can't think about these things. And then how do they handle it? Well, Michelle just basically admitted it. Instead of like, if something happens and they're seeing things, they pray about it and then they get right with God. So is that how they handled everything with Josh? Okay, Josh, you did all of these things. Now it's time to get right with God and then we're better. That's not how it works. If people are actually involved with sort of things, they need to get therapy, they need to get help, they need to have resources. And also, if they're committing acts against people, they need to be held responsible. And so if the process is reduce it or prohibit it, and then when they have it, monitor it, and then if they do something, make sure you confess to us so that we can get right with God. Is it any wonder that there's still ongoing issues with Josh at this point? I'm not surprised. And it's odd to me that an innocuous question about electronics turned into we monitor our adult children's social media activity and their activity on the internet. Can you think of any other parent in any other context that would be okay making that statement and then saying, it was almost as though Michelle knew that what she was saying was odd because she backtracked, because she said, well, they ask us to do this. They ask us to do this. Okay. So you place the safeguards on there, you get a report, you see what they're looking at. If you see what they're looking at and you don't agree with it, then you can talk to your kids, who are adults, by the way, and tell them what not to look at online. This is control. This is control at a point where most parents shouldn't be having control. Is it any wonder now why Derek told us a month ago that Jill has to work on boundaries? If these people are literally on your phones, looking at your stuff, monitoring what you do, prohibiting you from doing things like Facebook or looking at any website that might tempt you or stumble. When you make something so prohibited or you make something so you can't do this, it's going to make a kid want to do it 100 times more. Which is why instead of doing abstinence only, they teach kids how to do things responsibly. It's proven through scientific studies that this is what works. So again, these are my opinions. I can't say for sure that they're talking about Josh, but it certainly sounds like they're talking about Josh. And it sounds like everything that happened with Josh has led them to be extra ridiculously protective and controlling of their other adult children. Think about it this way. Jed is 21 years old. He and his brother Jeremiah are about to be 22. Jed is actually running for office. Can you imagine running for office and having your mom and dad literally be monitoring your activity on the internet? Think about that. Mom and dad are monitoring your activity on the internet. Not only that, but think about Jeremiah. Jeremiah does not have his own social media accounts. Jeremiah is 21 years old. Think about that. Mom and dad are like, Jeremiah, you can't have social media. Jed can now because he's running for office, but that's the only reason. Jana is allowed to have social media, probably because she's 30 now, and I guess at some point you have to be like, Jana, you can have some things. But that makes me wonder, like, Is this also, are these the same sort of things that they're controlling about Jana? Does that really mean like it's not just free Jana, it's should free Jed, free Jeremiah, and Josh? Josh now lives on the property. So clearly, if they're placing safeguards on the rest of the kids, do you think one of the stipulations for him living there is we're going to put this on your phone, Josh, so you can't look at these things? Could that be why they were at Josh's business, because Josh wasn't looking at it at home but knew he could do it at work? I don't know. But it all leads to a place where when you tell someone enough times they can't do something, it's going to make you want to do it 10 times more. And it's going to lead to an unhealthy understanding of what is enough and what's not enough. And you learn no self-control if you're constantly going back to mom and dad to tell you how to live your life. It's complete and utter dependence. It's control. It's fear. And it's making kids feel like everything that they see on the internet is wrong, which is not true. Most kids, if taught, can learn what's not okay, but kids also learn by making mistakes. So if you don't allow them to make mistakes and don't allow them to make decisions for themselves, they'll never decide. So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think this is about Josh? Do you think it's odd that they're monitoring their kids' internet usage? And do you think it's weird that a simple question about electronics was diverted onto this topic? Or is this just, I was totally expecting this, this isn't odd, these are just the Duggars? All right, you guys, I would love to hear your thoughts, and I'll be back later with more. Bye.